Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and today I am pleased to introduce Lee Harris. Well, actually, welcome back, Lee Harris, Director of Operations at Blue Marine Travel out of New Zealand. How are you, Lee?
Oh, very good. Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, no worries. Well, the last time you were here with, of course, our guest host, Rebecca Whitlock, who is always welcome on our platforms, and it was an amazing interview then. But right now we're seeing, as countries are opening up straight across the planet, I am seeing on many social media channels that crew are nervous. We saw at the beginning of this whole situation, for example, countries like South Africa, all of a sudden people couldn't even get home. We talk a lot about repatriation, but it wasn't even happening. Can you give us, and that's the reason I had you on today, is I wanted to reach out to someone such as you who your industry is travel, to give us a little update on the face of the planet right now and how movement is happening and how it's easing up.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, we can start by touching on South Africa. I mean, that's probably the best place to start with regards to travel at the moment, and it's most definitely the biggest issue for travel for crew in or out. It's just not happening, unfortunately. Travel agents are getting no information whatsoever from anybody, airlines, government. Nothing's coming through to us. There's no scheduled carriers, commercial carriers flying in or out presently. Contrary to what people may see online, there definitely are not flying. It's just repatriation flights. South African Airlines announced, I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, that they had around about 8 or 9 repatriation flights that they were going to put on for people in and out. We've seen a couple that did depart, but there's been quite a number that have been cancelled. Again, purely for the fact that the South African government don't have room at the quarantine facilities once they land in Johannesburg. So the crew, unfortunately, they're getting their names onto the repatriation lists. They're expecting to go, and within 24 hours of the flight to depart, they're being told it's cancelled. And the problem with that also is they're not going to get a refund on that money, at least for 6 months, maybe even longer, because the airlines will just say to them, well, it's not, we're sorry we cancelled this, but we'll put you on the next one that's available. Lo and behold, that one gets cancelled as well. So it's the biggest issue within travel at this moment, South Africa, easily. And the problem we've got is we can't see when there's going to be any end in sight to it. It's just an ongoing situation. I think last week South Africa announced that they were going to extend the lockdown until the 15th of July. So at the moment, unfortunately, it's just a matter of waiting and seeing. And I would suggest to any crew that are thinking about booking online to contact a travel company to see if those flights are likely to be operating. Not so much the repatriation flights, because they don't give us the information for them, but there are certain airlines, and I will say who they are. I sort of ummed and ahed whether to say, but I will, because I don't want people losing money on them. Turkish Airlines were a big one from the beginning of June, who were showing as operating flights into South Africa. There was no possible way they were going to be operating. They hadn't flown a flight in 3 months. So why they were showing that they were going to be operating flights and they're selling them on their website to people, I don't know. Hopefully they will refund people, but how long it's going to take, I don't know. So if people do see those flights, please don't book them unless you actually speak to somebody within the travel industry to find out if there is a chance that they'll go, because I don't want more people losing money on them.
So what you're saying then is, since the beginning of this pandemic, there have been people around the world that reside in South Africa, that is their home, that still haven't made it home.
Yeah, most definitely. We see it, honestly, by a day-to-day basis. We have not just our accounts, the yachts that we have on account with us, but just individual travelers who are desperate to either get home to see their family and loved ones, during a time which is stressful enough for people. You're having to deal with this pandemic, but to be so far away from your home and not knowing when you're going to get there as well, it just heightens, the people's stress levels. And like I said, we're getting contacted daily for people who need to either get in to see their families, or for people who are desperate to get back to work. Because if they can't get to their yachts, they've basically not got a job.
Is the government doing anything? Is the South African government doing anything to help those people that are unable to return home? Because I can imagine the cost factor is quite substantial.
I would imagine so. I mean, I can't speak for the South African government, unfortunately. They don't give any information to us. All we know is that they had agreed on repatriation flights back into the country and out of them. I know full well that a lot of them have not gone when they're supposed to. That's not to say that they've not all gone. I know some Qatar Airlines flights operated in May. Not all of them by any stretch of the imagination. And I also know that South African, like I said, South African Airlines have now got, or they've announced that they've got some repatriation flights that are going to be operating. But to be honest, I'll need to see it to believe it. I mean, that's the bottom line of it.
Well, that's an absolute shame for South African crew because, as you said, it's not only getting home, but it's as well, getting to their jobs and right now, mind you, the yachting industry as a whole is a bit up in the air because there's borders opening here. There's borders. We saw in Spain, for example, the yacht charter market opened up, but the borders were closed. So how are owners and guests supposed to get to the yachts if the borders were closed? Sure, there's going to be a certain amount of ultra high net worth individuals within the country's borders that will do a charter, but compared to, the majority, there's not a lot here. How are things happening now in the Mediterranean? I think there was some change in the UK not too long ago.
Yes, so probably the biggest news this week with regards to travel is that the UK obviously announced their quarantine rules, which came into effect from the 8th of June. So anybody now entering the UK will have to self-isolate for 14 days. As with most countries, rules and regulations, there are certain exemptions to who has to self-isolate. And the good news for seafarers are that they are actually exempt on this one, which is a real big help for them. There are a few things you'll need to either have on you or complete to make sure you are exempt, though. I'll go through what they are. It's going to be a bit boring, but it's essential that they have this information. Because if they don't, then obviously they are going to have to self-isolate for 14 days. So for seafarers, what they'll need is to be able to show their seafarer's identification documents, if they have one. If you don't have one, that's not a big issue because you can always show your joining papers, your seafarer's employment agreement, or a seafarer's discharge book, the continuous certificate of discharge. Alternatively, you can also show your basic training certificate, or a declaration from the registered owners of the vessel that you are a crew member on board. But also what you'll also have to do after showing all that information, you'll also have to fill out a public health passenger locator form. And you can get this and you can download it before you travel, and it can be found on the UK government's website. I'll give the website out to the yachts so they know where to go, and it's www.gov.uk.
Well, that's great because we're going to make sure to provide this information as well underneath the interview when it airs because, this is really important information. Now, what's happening around the Mediterranean then? Because right now is sort of traditionally the hot season for the Mediterranean. And now that we're seeing, just the other day, France was out here opening up, Italy was opening up. We saw, a notice from Kuwait. More and more of these countries along the Med are opening up. What's going on with travel there?
Yeah, so it's interesting as well. Again, what I would say is make sure that you check each country before you book anything, because there are certain nuances between countries, and not only the countries, also with regards to whether you hold a seaman discharge book or if you're just a general traveller trying to get in. What we've seen is we've had a few people who are yachties who are seen, they have got the discharge book. The problem that they're finding is they're trying to get out there because they know that's where the yachts are eventually going to be. So they're trying to get to the Med to get a job. The issue they've got is they're not going to get in without being on a yacht at this moment in time. So they opened up the borders, most of the Mediterranean on the 1st of June, and they're opening up further on the 1st of July to the general public. But again, there's two parts to this. The 1st of July, when they open up to the general public, it's going to be certain countries, so EU countries, countries within the Schengen zone. So those certain countries also have slight differences with other countries sort of worldwide that can come in who have got low COVID risk. So they need to make sure they check that. But with regards to flights as well, it's quite handy that this has been a good week with regards to European airlines, because they've announced KLM, Lufthansa, and Brussels Airlines have all announced this week that they're going to be putting on extra flights starting. I think it's this week they start, and most of those are going to be flying into Southern Europe. So, which is going to be a big help to get people moving. KLM themselves announced that they'll be operating 60% more flights than last month with regards to Europe, which is going to be a real big help. And Lufthansa are also hopeful of operating 90% of all short-haul and medium-haul destinations on their network as from the end of this month. And also from the 15th of June, so from tomorrow, Brussels Airlines are now going to be operating 9 flights departing from the Brussels airport. And this is going to be the first time that they've operated any flights in 7 weeks. The destinations that they're going to be flying to are Germany, Switzerland, Greece, Portugal, and Spain. So it's really going to help with the med travel.
Well, one thing people have to be aware of is that, in general, we're used to any rules that apply to the Schengen area apply straight across the board. But in this crisis, that isn't the case. Each country is literally operating on its own rules.
Exactly right. Yes, it is. Yeah. So some countries are a lot more stricter than others. Germany have been very strict with regards to their lockdown and who they're letting in, and even who they're letting transit as well. So it is basically, you have to look on a country by country basis. You can't just take it as a Schengen area. The 26 countries, you can't do that, unfortunately. So yeah, you're going to have to just unfortunately check or contact companies like ourselves who can give you that information and point you in the right direction.
Do you have a website that people could go to that is sort of comprehensive of the Schengen area, or?
There probably is. I don't have it to hand. It's not a problem. What I can do, I can get it for you, Ria, and we can put it, as you say, at the bottom of the interview or whatever, so that people can have that information to hand.
Well, you know what, Lee, as always, it's been very informative, and I would really like to invite you back, maybe in a few days or when things change. If you see an update that happens throughout the world and you think it's really important with the yachting industry and where crew are situated and where crew need to go, for example, like South Africa, or a change in the UK, or a change in the Med, or even Florida, for that matter. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah, I'd love to come back whenever feel free to contact me. I'm happy to come on whenever you need me. But it's changing week by week. We're seeing more routes are operating. Rules and regulations are changing within countries. So there's a lot going on at the moment, and it's quite, there's a lot to take in. So yeah, I'm happy to come on as and when you need me to give an update.
Excellent. Well, we really do appreciate your time, Lee, and I hope this has been of help. We'll provide a few links underneath the interview, as Lee was saying, and we look forward to having you back when the next big change happens, as it happens.
Great stuff. Thanks for having me again.
You're welcome. Once again, this has been Lee Harris. He is the Director of Operations at Blue Marine Travel in New Zealand. You've been watching another edition of Yacht Crew Vlogs right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I have been your host. Tune in again for another episode.